Welcome, friends of the show. We are back with another episode of the Ferris Wheel Serious Rock Talk podcast.
Ooh, all right.
A big thanks for your emails, suggestions, and your support on our social media platforms. Continue to email us at seriousrocktalk@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Listen to a new show every week. Just tune in each Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. New York City time on Cap City Beats, located at www.capcitybeats.ca. Okay, buckle up for some serious rock talk. And we are back for another episode of the Ferris Wheel Serious Rock Talk podcast.
Is that what we're doing today? Okay.
That is right. I'm one of your hosts, Mr. Ferris Kennedy, and the man to the left of me is no stranger. He is a former writer of National Lampoons.
Doug Kenny. No, Ian Clarke. Dr. Ian Clarke.
And the man to the right of me is also a former writer of Allo Police.
Stephen Wheeler.
Or Allo.
You remember Allo Police?
Allo Police.
No, I wasn't on my hit list.
You remember that newspaper?
No.
It's an actual legit newspaper in Quebec, Allo Police.
Which you found in every good outhouse.
Yeah, and I don't know if there was true stories or fictional.
Kinda. It was basically the crime beat taken to the most ridiculous extent. So basically, the guys that would hang out at the police station in the Vice Squad area and basically took all the worst possible stories and made them even worse.
My grandfather used to read that newspaper religiously, that and also the Italian one called Insieme, which means together, and that was pretty well it. And then there was also, don't forget, Montréal Matin.
Oh, yeah.
Ian's like, what?
This is very true. We'll get back to how this relates in a second, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, because it's relating to Ian's topic of les portes.
That's true. You're right. They know the way it is. Today, I'm going to talk about something. How does someone, a group, it doesn't matter, become famous? What factors influence popularity? Can we demystify some of the process of success? Yes, Virginia, we can. Using the Doors, the classic rock quartet, as an example of artistic success, I have overlaid their story with 5 general criteria that really apply to all the arts, business, personal achievement, what have you. Okay, the Doors was together from 1965 to 71. Essentially, 6 years, 6 studio albums, about 4.5 hours of music, give or take.
That's it?
That's it. I know. Is that a lot? I think it's a little bit. Anyway, how did the group become so influential, so long-lasting, really, that even today, if you mention to a 20-year-old the group The Doors, they know it, right? They're part of pop culture, and they're cemented in. I think any endeavor, you have to have these 5 factors that I mentioned cross and intersect. Here we go. I'll mention them briefly, and then I'll elaborate. Number 1, believe it or not, you do need some kind of talent. If you're a songwriter, you need to write some great songs. If you're a dancer, dance well. There has to be a platform from which to grow. Ambition, number 2. Talent is not enough. Never is. You have to want success, be it recognition, money, fame, whatever. You need goals. Read Neil Young's autobiography sometime. You have to be an achiever. Number 3, and this is really important, mentorship. You need someone to help launch you off the rocket pad. It may be a great record producer, a choreographer, a business person, your boss, a teacher, an editor. You need a mentor. It does not happen alone. Number 4, luck. This is the vector that is the most difficult to discuss. It's like talking about spirituality or something, the wild card. No one knows where it comes from. It's not a game of chance. It has something to do with being the right person at the right time, at the right place, the Triple Crown. Obviously, that can't be planned, strategized, or funded. Not now, not ever, hopefully. And number 5, historical significance. This won't make you famous, but it will keep you famous, and your descendants rich. There are certain artists, special people, who through that cosmic confluence come best to represent an age, a period in time, a zeitgeist, often briefly, for only a few years perhaps, but their persona is kind of shorthand that bespeaks the tenor of the time. A few examples: F. Scott Fitzgerald in the Jazz Age, Jack Kerouac and the Beatniks, and dare I say the Doors and late 60s rock, especially on the West Coast, and especially in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Okay, let's apply the vectors to the Doors. Number one, talent. 4 guys. Let's start with the drummer, John Densmore. Heavy jazz influence, often very non-rock type beats, which hadn't been heard until then. Robbie Krieger, guitarist, played flamenco guitar exclusively before the Doors. Hence, he never used a pick on the electric guitar, gave it a very different sound. Ray Manzarek, keyboards. As the Doors never had a bass player, as there's a rock band with no bass player, at least live, Ray would play bass on what was new at the time, a Fender Rhodes keyboard bass. That's why often the Doors, there's very simple bass lines, because he was playing it with his left hand, right, and playing melody or whatever, chording with his right. His signature sound was that of the Vox Continental organ. It's all critical to that Doors vibe, that dark kind of eerie sound. Jim Morrison, the singer, his lyrics usually foreboding, perfectly melded with the often eerie sound of that organ. Almost every aspect of the Doors, the look, the instruments, the compositions, the personalities, somehow energized each other and took it all to higher levels. Again, there's a lot of luck involved here. You can't manufacture chemistry. To put it another way, the members were all on the same wavelength. 99.9% of bands don't work out. Remember, the Doors formed in 1965, and their international stardom was achieved in 1967. Barely 2 years for career development. And Jim Morrison had never sung with the band in any real sense. Robbie Krieger had never played electric guitar in a band in any real sense. This is like from a fairy tale. So we have 4 gifted musicians who managed to find each other. They played a few gigs, got a brief residency at the London Fog nightclub, and later the Whiskey A Go-Go, and then boom, light my fire. I should add that your talent doesn't necessarily have to be original. In fact, all talent is somewhat derivative, but the expression of that talent has to be cast as original. There was never a band before the Doors that sounded like them, especially thematically. They were strangely, perversely original. Again, it's much rarer, I'll put it that way, than you might think. You might consider, I don't know, Adele original, or Britney Spears, or Gwen Stefani. That's fine. It's all opinion, I agree, but the answer will be different for everyone. Certainly the passage of time makes the final decision. That's the way I look at it. And the Doors broke up in 1971, and they still sell millions. So kind of like the Beatles, I think old man Time made his decision. Okay, number 2, ambition. The first spark of ambition flamed up when Ray Manzarek bumped into Jim Morrison on Venice Beach, July 1965. Ray Daniel Manzarek, I think was his name, Jr., was meditating on LA's Venice Beach when a guy he'd known at film school approached and said hi. That was 22-year-old dropout Jim Morrison. They got to talking, and Ray told him about his band, which was called Rick and the Ravens, and Morrison had been living on a friend's rooftop, dropping a lot of acid and writing poetry. And he sang a song called Moonlight Drive to Manzarek. Manzarek loved the album, and he said we should form a band and make $1 million. And he said, Ray, that's just what I've been thinking. Voila, the Doors. That easy. 6 albums in 6 years. Overlaid that with relentless touring until the final, incident in Miami, which you can look up. And you have a hard evidence of 4 ambitious guys. I've recently read the autobiographies of Robbie Krieger and John Densmore, and they certainly suggest it takes a lot of energy and drive to not only get to the top, but to stay at the top. Okay. Did Jim Morrison eventually lose his ambition, his interest? I think he did, and that contributed to the group's demise, along with substance abuse, I would say, and perhaps mental illness. But that's for another podcast. Anyway, the Doors sold well right out of the gate. Here are some sales figures. 1967, the premiere album, 14 million copies. Same year, Strange Days, almost 6 million copies. I won't go through them all. LA Woman, 1971, over 10 million copies. These guys were, for a while, the most popular band in the United States. It's that easy. You don't get there without ambition. Number 3, mentorship. As I said, it could be the arts, business, it doesn't matter, the trades. You have to have a mentor. You could say that the Beatles had Brian Epstein and George Martin. Iggy Pop had David Bowie, kind of. Bob Dylan had Albert Grossman. The Doors, they had a guy named Jack Holzman. Holzman founded Elektra Records in his university dorm, one of those guys. And he signed the Doors when no one else would touch them. They're way too weird, not commercial. He signed groups like the Queen for their U.S. distribution. He took a chance in the group Queen. And now everybody thinks Queen. What was the problem? Queen was pretty odd when he signed them. He signed Jackson Browne, the group Love, was a great band. Carly Simon, the Stooges, Harry Chapin, the band Bread. Someday we'll do a podcast on Jack Holzman. He was and remains at age 90 a giant. And regarding the Doors, I often think of him as the fifth Beatle, perhaps sandwiched in there with a producer named Paul Rothchild, who was a huge 60s producer. He did Janis Joplin, stuff like that. Number 4, luck. This is a tough one. This is an extract from Scientific American magazine in an article that discusses a study about the role of luck in determining success. This is a quote. In terms of success, talent was definitely not sufficient because the most talented individuals were rarely the most successful. In general, mediocre but lucky people were much more successful than more talented but unlucky individuals. The most successful people tended to be those who were only slightly above average in talent with lots of luck. Unquote. That's something we all know or have seen. You just learn to accept it. So how were the Doors lucky? In 1,000 ways. But let's focus on a few of the more obvious ones. You'll find, first I mentioned how they met, stuff like that. How about this? Jim Morrison, for most of his early life, was somewhat overweight. But in 1965, he was living alone on a rooftop, as I said, didn't have any money, didn't eat much, took a lot of acid, which burns off the pounds, and what emerged was this kind of Adonis figure. He had even had great hair, and he threw on leather pants, and he created the mold for what a male rock star should look like. Even to this day, look at Slash, any of these guys. Jim Morrison started all this leather look with the big hair. He created a mold. And this is important. He looked the part. He looked like his music sounded. Elvis looked like rock and roll. Bill Haley didn't. You have to look with, the same. You have to fit into the mold of your music. There's a reason Frank Sinatra always wore a tuxedo. You have to look like your music, or you're going to get into big trouble, right? And the Doors went beyond central casting. They were so perfect that way. They're lucky to have appeared at a place in history that was especially receptive to eccentric people and eccentric art movements. They wouldn't become famous today. Leonard Cohen wouldn't become famous today. This is a particular point in time. They had a very dark, funereal ambience. They were an eccentric band. Most bands were talking about love and together. All you need is love. All this stuff. The Doors sang about death and incest and murder. As some critic once said, Bob Dylan could only have made it in the 60s. True. The disco era would not have been especially receptive to a whiny voiced folk singer. All right? It wouldn't happen. In the KC and the Sunshine Band. Earlier I mentioned Jack Holzman. The Doors were incredibly lucky to be signed by Holzman. They had been turned down by everybody. They got fired from nightclubs. But he heard something different, right? And he never ripped them off, which is very strange for this time. Most of them got ripped off by their managers. And to this day, the surviving Doors are friends of Jack. So, lucky indeed. Number 5, the final one, historical significance. This criteria isn't necessary to achieve success. It is required to keep it. Look at it this way. Can an artist, just by the very mention of their name, provide a kind of cultural portal, no pun intended, to a specific time and place? When we think of the Grateful Dead or Jefferson Airplane, we conjure images of 1960s counterculture San Francisco. We always will. If they do a documentary on Haight-Ashbury in 67, you're going to hear these bands on the soundtrack, right? They're embedded in kind of a historical amber that denote a specific time and place. There's no way any artist can set out to achieve that. You can't. It goes beyond just willpower. the Beatles belong to the 1960s. When we think of the Beatles, they don't think of the 1980s, right? With their Magical Mystery Tour stuff. It's the 60s, period. There are a lot of great bands from the 60s, for instance, that you've never heard of, and you never will, because they have zero historical significance, no fault of their own. On the flip side, many bands with lousy songs, I won't name them, make it into the history books under the luck umbrella. It's a pretty big umbrella. Right place, right time, right people. The Doors enjoy relevancy today. So does F. Scott Fitzgerald. The point is that talent is timeless, but image is usually time-stamped. So we have the 5 factors: talent, mentorship, ambition, luck, and historical significance. The Doors nailed them all, and their music will obviously outlast the longevity of its members. If you're interested in rock and wonder why some bands survive yet most die off, think of the irrefutable Darwinism of the 5 factors. It will help. And remember, the Ferris Wheel Serious Rock Talk podcast is here to help you 24/7, 365 a year. This is Dr. Ian Clarke, and I have left the building.
You know what's funny about that is that poor Ray Manzarek had to play the bass and the keyboard.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Jim Morrison, what the hell are you doing? Can you not learn an instrument and play the bass?
Didn't play
you
anything.
lazy bum. And it shows the whole California beach bum. But weren't these guys UCLA grads?
Yeah, they graduated from film school, and they all had university degrees. The 2 or 3 of them were in a heavy meditation. They were different kind of cats. But
They were like the Monty Python of music.
It just worked for a brief time, like 2-3 years, and it was over. Anyway, I like those 5 factors. We can apply them to some bands in the future.
So 6 albums. I have
6 years.
I have the first one with the Doors. I have Strange Days, which I always get confused with the artwork, which I think it was always a Rolling Stones album.
Yeah,
and
right.
I have the one LA Woman, which is Riders on the Stone, which actually is a very good album.
It's a good, strong album, that one. The last one, although Morrison's voice is obviously just smoked out. Like, he sounds rough. I always thought that. Like, he's just making the key, Well, but great albums. Last, with Jim Morrison, they made 2 after that. And 3, I guess. They made one in 1978. They took poetry readings of his and played music behind it. And it's actually good. I enjoy it. But I think a lot of us who bought it at the time thought, great, a new Doors album. So it's kind of a fake hello, so to speak. Like, we're just desperate for new stuff.
Are you desperate for some sound?
Sure.
I hear music.
I hear it too. What does it mean?
Well, it's time for you to get angry.
I'm not going to get angry. Well, maybe I will.
Or get even.
That's right. Professionals don't get angry. They get even.
Welcome to Clarke Comments. Shut up and buckle up as the good doctor kicks out the jams and offers a selection of questionable, disturbed opinions that are somehow related to popular music.
As I peruse the World Wide Web in search of often elusive, truly interesting rock trivia, you can thank me later, I can still be surprised. Here's a gem I found at playback.fm. How's that for an extension? .fm. Anyway.
I like that one, actually.
Where did this guy get it? Entitled 18 Famous Musicians Who Went From Rich to Bankrupt. It's enlightening, sad, surprising, and overall stands as the lonely sentinel warning of the dangers of excess. I removed 2 of these candidates because they don't really fit. They probably needed a little more editing. So we have 16 unfortunate rockers. Here we go. Number 1, Marvin Lee Aday. I know, you know him as Meatloaf. All right. The late, great Meatloaf.
He was broke.
Battle to Hell sold 45 million copies, but he also at one time had 40 lawsuits against him.
Oof.
I don't know what, including Jim Steinman, who wrote the songs for Battle to Hell. I don't know what he did when he died. I don't know if he was broke. It's just one of those you just shake your head. But yeah, he declared Chapter 11, which destroys your credit rating. I don't know what happened to Meatloaf, but yeah, he did Battle of Hell 2, Back into Hell, and in the 1993, just because he wanted to diversify his portfolio, and that maybe pulled him out. Tony Braxton, sold 70 million records, 7 Grammys, and then she's declared bankruptcy at least twice, once in 98 from, quote, credit card bills and exorbitant monthly expenses. You sold 70. Okay, and then she was doing a Vegas residency, and she got sick or something, had to bail out of the contract, got sued, and she declared bankruptcy again in 2010. In other words, she's never getting a mortgage.
No.
You know what I mean?
Her what is beacon score is no good.
Yeah, really. Good point. Ted Nugent, the Motor City Madman. Ted Nugent, you're going to hear this as I read these. The common theme here is managers being dumb or just sleazy.
Or in Ted Nugent's case, he's just dumb.
Yeah, dumb and sleazy. Good point. And he, at one point, he owned a mink farm and didn't even know about it. Like his money went out the window, and he declared Chapter 11 in 1980. Marvin Gaye had a sad life generally, but you know, a lot of his money went to alimony, child support. At one point, he had to assign royalties on one of his albums to his ex-wife rather. It didn't work out. Too many drugs, cars, and property, right? And he declared bankruptcy. David Crosby, no big surprise to David Crosby. All these drug issues. He was arrested, of course. He had a hit and run charge, drug possession, concealed gun charge. His sales floundered, and yeah, he went personally bankrupt. Number 6, MC Hammer. You can't touch this.
That's sad.
Yeah, that's what he said to the IRS rather when he wanted his money. Like, I'll tell you in a second how much money. He sold millions and millions of albums, as you know. He bought a $30 million house. This is back in the 90s. He had $500,000 a month expenses for his staff at the house. $500,000. So you know this is not going to last. He declared bankruptcy. He was $14 million in debt in 1996. So work it. Yeah. I don't know if you'll never get it. It's an OJ thing. You'll never get out of it, right? Billy Joel. I don't know if he actually went bankrupt, but he was ripped off by his manager, who was also his brother-in-law and also godfather to one of his kids.
Oh, goodness.
A guy named Frank Weber, and he sued him in 1989 for $90 million. You're never going to get that back.
Nope.
That's gone. George Clinton, right, one of the fathers of funk, Parliament Funkadelic, he lost up to $100 million in a bad, horrific record deal. He got so ripped off, and he filed Chapter 11, and now I think he has a GoFundMe page. He's a talented guy that just made some bad decisions.
He's going to get some money now.
I guess.
They're doing a biopic, and Eddie Murphy is going to be portraying
George
Clinton.
Really?
Yeah,
Good.
Yeah.
Well, he deserves it. He's a talented guy, and it's a horrible story. It's up there with like one of those John Fogerty stories of getting ripped off. Isaac Hayes, great.
Shaft.
Yeah, which
Chef.
I have is a double vinyl. He's the man. Double vinyl. I'm not kidding. It's the soundtrack to Shaft. Yeah, great writer, great arranger, great producer.
Horrible businessman.
Oh, he's a disaster. But his the record company owed him $5 million. Then the record company went bankrupt. So he in turn went bankrupt and had to declare personal bankruptcy. Next, number 10, Willie Nelson. This is a very famous one because he owed such an enormous amount to the IRS. There's no way you could not know that you owe $32 million to the tax man.
Considering how much he smoked.
I guess so. But he actually wrote an album. The name of the album is The IRS Tapes. Who'll Buy My Memories? Whatever that means. So maybe not enough people, Willie.
Desperate times calls for desperate measures.
Number 11, Jerry Lee Lewis. Yeah, after Jerry Lewis married his 13-year-old second cousin, which was legal in Louisiana at that time, his sales plummeted and he declared bankruptcy. Bizarre, one of the godfathers or grandfathers
Wasn't
of
there
rock
a
and
movie
roll.
about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was it? His
Great
name?
Balls of Fire.
Yeah, with the Dennis Quaid, I think.
Dennis Quaid and Winona Ryder, I think.
Okay.
As
yeah,
the cousin.
It was a terrible career move. But
Dennis Quaid? No, Randy Quaid.
Or Randy Quaid.
No.
Dennis, I think.
Was it? I think it's Dennis.
Well, they're brothers. Not
Dennis.
the one from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
No, the other one.
Okay, no,
the
not
good-looking
Cousin
one.
Eddie. Yeah, okay, the more stable one.
I remember reading about this when it happened. Mick Fleetwood. Yes, that Mick Fleetwood. Fleetwood Mac, Rumors guy. did so much Bolivian marching powder that he just, you know what I mean? He went down the tubes. He's living in his buddy's basement and declared personal bankruptcy in 1984. So you wonder why they're touring now. Tom Petty, this is kind of a strategic bankruptcy. He was in a bad business deal, and in 1979 declared personal bankruptcy, which got him out of the business deal. I don't know how that works, and a lot of guys would do it, but it worked. Number 14, Wayne Newton. Wayne Newton, I don't know.
Dankeschön guy?
Dankeschön. I knew a guy that worked for Wayne Newton and said he had lots of money, but I guess he had lawsuits against him. He had...
Fig Newton people probably didn't like
well,
him.
I don't know what he had. I guess he had a lot of hair dye guys. No, he had a lot of guys against. He had a sexual harassment charges. Anyway, he declared personal bankruptcy in 1992.
He was in 2 movies, Adventures of Fort Fairlane with Andrew Dice Clay and Vegas Vacation.
With,
Hey,
Beverly D'Angelo.
And he was hitting on Beverly D'Angelo.
there you go, class
That's probably
act.
where the the sexual harassment comes from.
Number 15, Harry Nilsson Smilson, millionaire by the time he was 30, but he had a really sleazy manager, Cindy Sims, and at one point he had $300 in his checking
Harry
account.
Nilsson, I can't live.
Incredible voice, buddy of all the
Living
Beatles,
without
voice
you.
of an angel. There's a great documentary if you ever want to see it on YouTube about it.
I always mix him up with Leslie Nielsen.
That is quite a mix-up. Whoa, like that's not even.
Because I think Nilsson was from Sweden.
Well, he's American, but it's a Swedish name, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's American.
Yeah.
I thought he was Swedish.
You fool.
All right.
And he died in 1994, still trying to make that money back. Now, the last one of our wealthy musicians who suffered financial adversity, is a guy named Michael Jackson. When Michael Jackson died, he owed an amazing amount of money. And the reason that happened, people were giving him, his buddies were giving him money to battle lawsuits and this and that. He even owned the Beatles songs, and that wasn't enough to keep him out of debt.
Oh yeah, he owned those. That's right.
Yeah, ATV. And when he died, he owed $400 to $500 million in debt. Like, you know.
And within 3 years, I think the estate went from near bankrupt to now one of the most profitable ones in the world.
How's that even possible?
Well, he's no longer there for the class action suits.
Yeah. Plus, the death is really good for your career.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The only reason, let's face it, the Doors, a big reason they're around is Jim Morrison's death. If he's still around, he'd be some, bald guy, looking in the micro. But there's this whole mystique. If you die young, you can skyrocket your sales. James Dean made 3 movies. Everybody knows Jimmy Dean now, though, right? And they're really not great movies.
Yeah.
So, there you have it, folks. 16 super rich rock stars who got crunched by cash.
You forgot one, I think.
Who's that? Oh.
Leonard Cohen.
Yeah.
Was he on the list that you had to take off?
No,
No, but he's not really rock, though.
Nah, that's why Leonard Cohen got...
Oh, okay. The ones that you took off were not rock.
Well, I didn't think they fit. Frankie Lyme and the Teenagers, Martha Reeve and the Vandellas. Motown screwed all their musicians.
Oh, okay.
Mike Jeffrey. If you want to read a terrifying guy, Mike Jeffrey, who managed the Animals and Jimi Hendrix, he's horrifying. He died in a plane crash, I think, in the early 70s. Talk about instant karma is going to get you. Like, he's terrifying what he did with Jimi Hendrix.
I'm surprised that they didn't mention the Elton John when he was in debt for $150 million at one point in time, and he had asked MasterCard. It was MasterCard loaned them. It was MasterCard that loaned them the money.
How nice of them. Because they're really known for being nice.
And charitable.
Yeah, and what, a 75% interest after 1 year. Here you go, Elton. Yeah, just a gift. Come on. Anyway, that's what I wanted to wrap up.
That's Clarke's comments.
That's Clarke's comments.
What do we got? More music coming up?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hang on a second. Do we? No? Yeah, we do. I think it's not music for me, though.
Oh, that's right.
It's Exotica.
It's my turn. It's Kennedy's Corner.
Here we go.
Torture time.
Hey, I'm just dropped in.
Welcome to Kennedy's Corner. Following the advice of a behavioral psychologist, Ferris Kennedy has created a forum to express his nightmares, his terror, and his love of rock music. Dr. Clarke and medicated Wheeler help with his therapy by answering questions, or just acting like they're interested.
Gentlemen, I went deep in my brain.
My God, you can do that?
Oh, I can.
My God.
And I got I think the most toughest questions that you guys are ever going to have to answer.
All right.
Dr. Clarke, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
And the topic today for both of you gentlemen is who has a better rock voice. It could be either your opinion, fact, or you think there's some truth to it.
That's it.
You ready?
I'm ready, man.
Ian?
Yes.
John Lennon or Mick Jagger?
Oh, wow. That hurts.
I like doing this.
Yeah. I'm going to say John Lennon.
That's your...
Yeah, I just feel Mick Jagger really can't sing that well.
We won't tell him that.
Yeah, don't tell him now.
Vince Neil
Yeah.
or David Lee Roth?
Oh, boy. These are really groaners. Vince Neil and David Lee Roth. I'm going to say, pound for pound, David Lee Roth, although there are a lot of provisos on that, but I'm saying...
It hurts him to say that.
It hurts me to say it. Bozy, bop, diddy bop.
Yeah. Vince Neil, it's tough.
It's tough, man. He's a good voice.
Here's one which is fitting for the show. Jim Morrison or Michael Hutchins?
Oh, God. You bastard.
They both kind of look alike.
Well, yeah, I wonder what exactly. I wonder who came first.
Who's on first?
Well,
Come on. I mean, even the hair. I'm going to say... again, it's Jim Morrison, but I don't know. Yeah, Jim Morrison. Hutchins' great voice, too, though, so it's tough.
they both look...
Don't you find that he sounds like a guy who's having a prostate exam without any lube?
I wouldn't know that.
They're both Adonises, that's the thing. They were both,
Yeah, but also, Morrison's... he's an interesting voice. It's not like a great voice, like a Roger Daltrey voice. And Hutchins had a good... in a way, technically better than Morrison. But Morrison had this, again, he could sing his songs. You know the great test? We probably won't get to it, but what do anyone sound like when you're not singing your own song? Oh. That's when it's exposed.
Yeah.
Like when Neil Young, for instance, sings someone else, you go, my God, when it's not his song. But if it's his own song, old man, look at my... Okay, it's Neil Young's song. Okay. Sorry.
Steve...
Somewhere over the rainbow.
Yeah, really.
Steve Perry
Yep.
or Steve Tyler?
Oh, I'm thinking Steve Tyler. He's a really good voice.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he screams,
John Fogerty or Neil Young?
Shut up.
No, I'm
Obviously, Neil Young. I'm kidding. It's Mr. Fogerty. John Fogerty and he still sings his songs. This is 2022, folks. In the same key he wrote them in 1968. McCartney can't do that. So,
Bryan Adams or Billy Idol?
both great voices, both great rock voices. Because I don't want poison in my food this evening, I will say Bryan Adams.
Here's a tough one. Robert Plant or Roger Daltrey?
I hate you. I've never. This is my last podcast. I'm phoning it in from now on. They're both great vocalists. They really are. I'm saying Roger Daltrey for the vocal range alone.
And he's still built like a brick shit house.
Yeah, he works out. He's like a little tough guy.
Here's a little bit of a brain twister. Andy Kim or Neil Diamond?
Oh, they're both great singers for what they do. I always thought Neil Diamond did great versions of Neil Diamond songs. You know what I mean? If you take him off that, you're kind of going, what? But if he's singing Red, Red Wine, that's a pretty good version. Hey, you wrote that? Okay. So, Neil Diamond.
Neil Diamond? Okay. Yeah. Susanna Hoffs or Joan Jett?
Well, I'm going to go with Susanna Hoffs. Because of her vocal range.
Sure,
Yeah.
we'll go with that.
Go with that.
Janis Joplin or Grace Slick?
Oh, wow. That's a really neat comparison. Oh, you know what? That's I don't think I can answer that. Maybe it's...
That came from the dark recesses of it.
Yeah, that really hurts.
Tough one, eh?
It's impossible.
Because I know you like Janis Joplin. I'm not big on her.
I'm not big on it, but her voice is wow.
Like in Grace Slick alone on Jefferson Airplane.
Yeah, she's such a 60s chick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Janis Joplin because she could do slow stuff like Bobby McGee, and Grace Slick is not known for her slow stuff. She's a belter.
All right. David Johansen or Lou Reed?
Gee, you're good at this. These are good. You've put some work into this. I can tell. David Johansen or Lou Reed?
Buster Poindexter goes by also.
I know. Johansson actually had a singing voice, but Lou Reed couldn't really sing.
Take a walk on the wild.
Yeah, hey folks, Sugar Plum Fairy came from. He was a talk singer, and that's okay because he sang Lou Reed songs, and so I would say Lou Reed, just because immediately that's a Lou Reed song, right?
Yeah.
So these are painful.
Bon Scott or Brian Johnson?
Okay. Brian Johnson has a great rock voice, right? He just does. I like him for that, yeah.
Okay. And the last one for you, kind sir, before I torture the guy next to me. Bon Jovi or Bono?
You bastard. Okay.
He's got like one of them, right?
Yeah, I know. I got like one of them. Oh, God. Okay. I'm gonna keep people in suspense. I'm going to say, pound for pound, Bono.
Wow.
I know, because that hurt. because he does ballads, and he's a screamer too. He's a good range, but he's still slappable.
All right.
Oh, that's why you were pulling in your nose hairs.
Yeah, that
something
hurt.
less painful.
That hurt.
Wheels?
Yes, sir.
Ozzy Osbourne or Axl Rose?
Oh man,
These are good.
Yeah,
Because
Ozzy Osbourne for the stamina alone.
But I know you kind of favor him anyways. So
but just from a technical standpoint, I mean, the fact that a man still can actually get up in front of a mic in and of itself.
barely.
Okay. So you're going with Ozzy?
Ozzy.
Fantastic. Kurt Cobain or Dave Grohl?
Oh, Dave Grohl.
Okay.
What? Okay.
Okay.
Wait, wasn't the category the better singer?
Oh,
Yeah, but that
who has a better rock voice?
Oh yeah, Dave Grohl.
Okay. James Hetfield?
Because Cobain has a great grunge voice.
You're
Grohl has a great rock
You're
voice.
slipperier than a greased eel.
James Hetfield or Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden?
Interesting.
Bruce Dickinson.
Okay.
Okay.
Here's one that I think I know where he's going to go. David Gilmour or Roger Waters?
Yeah, that's leading the witness. Or entrapment, either way.
Waters is touring again, eh? And he's doing his 80s wall tour. That's what
Stop it.
he's living off that.
God, you can't just stay home and read a book.
No, he's in Connecticut. What do you want to do?
You don't need money.
Gilmore, because I just can't stand.
I know. He's an unpleasant guy.
I know where Ian would go on this one, but I know where you want to go. Chris Cornell or Eddie Vedder?
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
I mean, they actually sang together a number of times.
Yeah, Temple of the Dog.
Yeah. Eddie Vedder at this point in time, I think.
Oh, Ashley would love you for that. Because that's her favorite. Lane Staley or William Duvall, both of Alice in Chains. One filled in when the other one passed away. So
Yeah.
Duvall.
Duvall, really? Okay. Well, Kyle won't like you. Roger Hodgson or Sting?
Roger.
Reggie?
Reggie.
Okay. Here's one. Sass Jordan or Alana Miles?
Ooh.
Oh, they're almost a similar sound. Wow, that's a really good one. You put some time into this one.
Sass Jordan, I think.
She still can sing.
She was actually with Van Halen for a while.
Really, eh?
Practicing.
That's what I was basing it on Dad, because she can actually sing outside of her vocal range.
Yeah, she's a real belt. She's good.
Lita Ford or Sophie B. Hawkins?
Ooh.
That's a good one, too.
Ford, I think.
Ford. Okay. Taylor Hawkins or Roger Taylor?
Taylor Hawkins.
Because Roger did do a few songs.
Yeah, he's good. He's actually a pretty good voice.
Here's one that Ian's going to... I know where Ian would go, but I don't know where you... Jeff Lynne or George Harrison?
Jeff Lynne.
I agree. I mean, you sing along with the ELO song. He has or Wilbury song. He has a good voice.
Yeah.
But you never think of him that way.
No.
but he's got a damn good voice.
You always think of him, the guy with the big puffy hair and the glasses, right?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say as the guy who got in on the White Album.
He did get on the White Album. I'm sticking with that.
Sexy Sadie.
Anthony Kiedis or Billy Joel Armstrong? So, Chili Peppers or Green Day guy?
I know who I'd go for.
Billy Joe, just for the range.
And the mascara?
Well, no, but I've
I
actually
didn't do that anymore though.
I've actually I was amazed because I heard the one he did with Nora Jones, and
Yeah.
I really thought it would be a dumpster fire, and it
Yeah.
actually surprised me how good it was.
Isn't it cool? Like I heard Pink sing a classic Cole Porter song where it was. She has a great voice. You just don't think of her that way until she's out of her own gig, and that's what exposes you. Right? You know, when the emperor wears clothes, the emperor doesn't wear clothes. You know, kind of, wow, you really do have a good voice. It's a big test.
And the last one for you, sir, and let's see how Ian will answer this one after. Paul McCartney or Billy Gibbons?
Oh, well, come on. I'm not driving you home if you say the wrong one on this one.
McCartney.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I thought you were going Gibbons for rock.
No, McCartney, hey, he's got a good, well, he's old now, but he had a good range. Somebody mapped it out. It's like 3.5 octaves at one point.
Yeah.
He's a great range. And also, some guy made a point. I saw this documentary I mentioned earlier on Harry Nilsson. McCartney has this warm, friendly voice that you don't realize it. Because you can hear, hey, Jude. But because
Gibbons is rough.
it's in the back of our brains. You hear it so often. But it's hard to say, when was the first time I ever heard him? And you realize he has a good voice.
I think Gibbons has a good old man voice.
Well, he's got rumors spreading now.
Gibbons' voice is to me like those actors that don't really age because they look old when they're young.
Yeah, he's a good
And
point.
then like what was her name? The Wicked Witch of the West.
Margaret Hamilton.
Margaret Hamilton looked the same.
I know.
At
She did.
80 as she did at 30.
Good point. I know. She looked the same. That's
so
true.
Gibbons' voice was the same at 50 as it was at 20.
Okay, so between Gibbons and McCartney, if they were both single in a bar, who would pick up first?
Gibbons. McCartney looks like what's her name?
Angela Lansbury.
Angela Lansbury.
Yeah, but he's a former Beatle. Hello, boom. He's worth $1 billion US. I think he'd do okay in that.
Well, it depends. Like if the girl likes a shaggy dog, Gibbons has to.
This Billy, he's got that cool look. Like he still looks cool.
He looks
like,
cool. He's slim with the black. He usually wears a black suit.
Yeah.
Hey.
So
Yeah.
so I made him tough.
They were brutal, man.
I like that you actually pondered on the Morrison and Hutchins for a while. I was surprised.
Well, because I'm just trying to be honest, and I never thought Jim Morrison had a fantastic voice like Roger Daltrey or something, but it suited Doors songs, Riders on the Storm. It's perfect, but outside of that, imagine him singing something else. Nah, and by the end, he was croaking through L.A. Woman. Really rough, I thought.
But Plant and Daltrey, I think you could have gone either way. But
Yeah.
I'm not surprised because Roger could still belt them.
He can still go,
Yeah.
and pretty well. I think it's the same key that they're written. Robert Plant tended to go into what they call the Banshee scream a little too often for me, with a lot of Zeppelin songs. He could have done something more interesting, I thought. That his default was just to go right up the register into the stratosphere like Steve Perry. You're kind of going, yeah, okay, that's interesting, but what else you got?
I just like the fact you're upset that Roger Waters is bringing the 80s. It's called the 80s Wall Tour. Again,
I think I saw that in 1985. He's just got to just stop touring. Hey, how about that? If you need some money, call me. But stop it. Stay at home.
But these guys have their own thing. It's the Roger Waters. It's not Pink Floyd. It's Roger Waters, Pink Floyd's The Wall. It was Roger Hodgson's Breakfast in America tour. It's as if they own the rights to those albums.
It's very true. It's Jeff Lynne's ELO.
Yes.
That's the way it's billed. If they can get to a lot. When the Doors came out in 1980, whatever they had a little tour, it was called Doors of the 21st Century. And the ex-drummer, Densmore, sued them for that. You can't say Doors. Okay, so they robbed. Because they all own that, well, in the Morrison estate, they own that name, the Doors. That's why. And so they came out with the Krieger Manzarek Band. Okay.
And I think that weren't the Doors the first band that was banned for life from the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yeah.
Because they refused, because apparently Ed Sullivan would ask you to either change some words or
they didn't want to do it.
They didn't do
They
it.
agreed to it. He said, when you sing it, you say, girl, we can't get much higher. He said, yeah, okay, we'll do that. We'll put in something else.
Yeah, and
But he
didn't.
didn't.
Yeah, and then they came back. Ed Sullivan's people said, well, you blew it. You'll never sing the Ed Sullivan Show at the Ed Sullivan Show again. And
He actually cared.
well, yeah, Morrison replied, we just did the Ed Sullivan Show. What? You see, they didn't get the 60s vibe. Why would I want to do that again? And they go, well, because everybody does. Nah.
Yeah, they went on Soul Train with Don Cornelius.
Yeah, whatever they did, Don Cornelius.
Here, I'm waiting to say, how do you know this?
Well, that is pretty good. But then again, you're a little older than I think. But Don Cornelius was great with his mellow tones. Hi, coming up next we've got Marvin Gaye.
I like Dick Clarke. Dick Clarke was good when he did his rockin'. He was like
He was
America's
okay.
favorite teenager, and he was like 85. And he was still America's favorite teenager.
Yeah, he was. He
In a
lived
walker.
forever.
In a walker, yeah. These guys all had a tragic death, man. They all died sad, man. It was awful.
I guess. Well, I don't know.
Dick Clarke and Casey Kasem,
Yeah.
that was just really sad.
Sad,
both of them.
sad. The way
But
they
but
died.
not the same way as rock stars. But it was just like, it's a horrible way to go.
How did Casey Kasem, America's Top 40?
He actually was a dementia. He went missing or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And the
Kids
people
were-
that took care of him didn't. They just siphoned
okay.
the money out of his accounts. It's just horrible.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I like Casey Kasem.
America's Top 40, number 1, Pink Floyd, number 2.
Number one, Roger Waters, The Wall again.
Yeah.
Number 2, Elton John.
And he was.
Border song.
I never got the feeling he even heard the music. He was just a DJ. Did he ever listen to the songs?
Well,
It was just
what
he
did
just
Wolfman
listed them.
Jack do? Did Wolfman Jack listen?
He had to early
he
in his
did,
career,
yeah.
and he had to because he was a DJ out of a powerful station in southern states, maybe Mexico, North Mexico, but he had to because he'd be sitting there in real time. Here we have, I don't know, Frankie Lyman, the Teenagers, Why Do Fools Fall in Love, and you have to wait for the 2 minutes till it's over, and then come in the end. Okay, that was like the old style DJs, right? It wasn't taped.
Where they dropped the needle.
Literally, they drop it. They get really good at it too. Anyway, was that?
That was it.
That's a wrap.
I think we're heading into a vinyl review.
Yes, the third and final prize-winning review.
Oh, it's a giveaway. So email us at the serious rock talk at gmail.com.
And we should mention who is generous enough to give us this stuff.
Crosstown Traffic at
Yeah.
593C Bank Street in Ottawa, which happens to be also our office.
It's a beautiful office too.
It's quite nice. It's got a good 60s vibe to it.
Incense and peppermint.
Incense, peppermint,
What are we
strawberry.
reviewing today, kind sir?
Oh, hello.
The music at night, it sounds bright on Wheeler's turntable. He shines a light, he keeps his vinyl in sight, and gives you his magnificent review. Now here's a clue we have for you. It's time for Wheeler's Vinyl Review.
Women and Children First by Van Halen.
David Lee Roth album. It's a good one.
It was Van Halen's first album of the 80s. And it was also Eddie's desire to grow as an artist that began to stir, really. You have here some of the great guitar opens of the 80s with And the Cradle Will Rock, which is a song that's made virtually every Van Halen road tape.
Yeah.
Because we have to explain to some listeners, road tape is what you usually made in the 80s.
For road trip.
For road trips, because you couldn't have Spotify in your car.
No. Or CDs.
Or CDs for that matter.
They were invented.
For the first time, basically, you hear the keyboards in a Van Halen song.
Yeah, true.
Accompanying Eddie's guitar. It's also the first time there are multi-track guitar effects, which would become really famous in the later 80s. And it's also an album that's really well balanced because David Lee Roth is not outshining the rest of the band and vice versa.
Yeah, they weren't fighting yet, so.
Exactly. Everybody Wants Some is extraordinarily adventurous. Van Halen uses multiple track again on this one with a guitar. A critic used to call it painting with an oral picture.
Pretty nice.
Which is really nice when you think about
Yeah.
it. You also have some great wrought squeals and shrieks. But at this point in time, it's not so much a gag reflex as it is a really good musical instrument. You have Romeo's Delight, which concludes side one with a great guitar riff. There's a cool vibe. And basically, by this point on the album, you're convinced Eddie is a great ringleader, because it does sound like somewhat like a tree ring circus at time.
That's true.
You have also great songs like Tora Tora, Could This Be Magic, In a Simple Rhythm. It's just these amazing riffs. This is Van Halen at their best. And it's basically the album of growth and maturity. So if you want world-weary wisdom on your turntable, this is a great 5 out of 5 stars.
Oh, wow. You really get
Romeo's
5.
Delight is such an underrated song. I love that song. And that other one. And the cradle will rock.
Is that Neil Young? No.
No.
So this is second album or third?
Oh, fourth? Third studio, fourth.
What was it? Yeah, because it went
Van
Van
Halen
Halen,
1,
Van Halen 2.
84. No, right, wait.
84. Yeah, this is their third.
Third, yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Because they also have Fair Warning that
Yep.
was after. Man, I have them all set in my vinyl order.
Okay.
So
Don't touch.
don't touch them.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Great.
That's it, sir.
Thank you. That was
Wow,
really good.
That was a fantastic show.
Yeah. You rarely award 5 out of 5. There you go.
That's rare for you, man. You must have been feeling really good.
I was.
And the amphetamines work, don't they?
They do. They work.
Especially in a good espresso.
Well,
Washed down with an espresso.
I'm impressed you did a 5 on 5, and you don't have to suck up to me because it is the Roth version of Van Halen. But I do appreciate your kindness. Your generosity is always well noted. So
I wouldn't necessarily give that review with a CD. On a vinyl, it really sounds.
well, yeah, the sound by far is
Yeah.
no different. Okay, well,
Great.
I'm Ferris Kennedy saying bonsoir,
I mean, Clarke saying au revoir.
And I'm Stephen Wheeler saying adios.
adios,
Bye-bye.
bye.